Hello and welcome. And today's video is about tax, something everybody loves paying. So, tax and taxation mean the same thing. Who do you have to pay taxes to? And the answer is the government, sometimes your local community, and sometimes to the army, as happens in some areas of Burma. What do they need the money for? And the answer is to do things that people want, like defend the country, build roads, hospitals, schools, pay pensions to old people, etc. And then the next question, so if tax is used for all these good things, why do so many people not want to pay it? And the answer is because they think the government doesn't do a very good job, because they use the money to look after themselves and their friends, and because no one likes to see money they've earned go somewhere else without having any control over the process. Okay, there are two types of tax. The government mainly uses these two methods where you hardly realize that you're paying tax. Number one is called direct tax. This is taken out of your wages before they are paid to you. Your boss pays part of the wages you earn to the government. You never get it in your hand or your bank account, so you don't feel the pain too much. Number two is indirect tax. This is a tax collected every time you spend money. In most countries, the price shown in the shop includes the tax. So if you buy a chocolate bar for 20 baht, that already includes the tax. Many people don't even know they're paying tax. Out of the 20 baht for the chocolate bar, most of it goes to the shop, but some, about 2 baht, is paid by the shop to the government. Question, do you pay tax? If you're a student, do you pay tax? And the answer is yes, you pay indirect tax when you buy anything. So, taxes, direct taxes especially, are used to change wealth inequality. So first, what is wealth? Wealth is all the money and other things that belong to you. So if you have money in the bank, or hidden in a bamboo tree, or a house, or a car, or a shop, lots of furniture, that is all part of your wealth. So for example, if you died tomorrow and they had to give everything that belonged to you to someone else, they would be giving away all your wealth. What is wealth inequality? Well, some people are rich, they have a lot of wealth. Other people are poor, they don't have much. So wealth is not shared equally. So just for a moment, imagine that it was shared. Harry Potter did a spell and we all had the same amount of money and everything else. What do you think would happen? The wealth equality would quickly disappear. Some people would work hard and make clever choices about what to do, so their wealth would go up. Other people would eat, sleep, and watch movies all day, so their wealth would go down. Or maybe some people would just be lucky and others unlucky. Very soon, there would be inequality again. So there will always be some inequality, no problem. But what if you got all your wealth from your father when he died, and you eat, sleep, and watch movies all day? What if you got your money illegally by stealing it or selling drugs? Income is different from wealth. It is what you get from working or from interest or having investments. Wealth is what you already have. There are a lot of social issues to do with wealth inequality, which are nothing to do with economics. For example, rich people often think they are better than poor people. Rich people use their wealth to stop other people getting rich. Rich people use their money to persuade governments to make laws that will help them. And it's not only rich people who do this to poor people, but also big rich companies do it to small poor companies. There will always be some wealth inequality. How much is okay is outside the area of economics. But how the direct tax system is set up will have an effect on wealth inequality. There are three categories: progressive, regressive, and proportional. And these are all taxes on income, not on wealth. So the first one is progressive tax. And the idea is the more you earn, the higher percentage you pay as tax. So, for example, the tax law says you have to pay 10% on the first 50,000 baht you earn every year, 50% between 50,000 and 100,000 baht, and 20% on any money you earn over 100,000 baht. So here we have three different people. So we have Min U, and then Sibuya, and then Zani U. And Min U earns 50,000, Sibuya earns 100,000, and Zani U earns 150,000. And there are different tax brackets in the column on the left. So tax on 50,000 is 10%, tax on 50,001 to 100,000 is 15%, and over that is 20%. So Min Yu in the second column, he will pay 10% of the 50,000 he owns, which is 5,000. In the next bracket from over 50,000, he doesn't earn that much, so it's zero. And the over 100,000, he doesn't do that one, so that one is zero. So the total he pays is 5,000. Sibluya earns 100,000, so on the first 50,000, he pays 10%, same as Minu. On the next 50,000, he pays 15%. So the first, he's paying 5,000 on the first 50,000. Second 50,000, he's paying 7,500. He doesn't have any income over 100,000, so that's zero. So his total is 12,500. So he's earning twice the amount that Min U is earning, but he's paying more than twice the salary. The tax. Okay, Zani U, he is earning 150,000 a year. So on the first 10%, he pays 5,000, the same as everybody else. The second 10%, he pays 7,500, the same as Sibu Ya. He's the only one that's earning more than 100,000, and he's paying 20% on that, which comes to 10,000. So his total is 22,500. So he's paying more tax than the others, in fact, more than the other two added together. So what is happening here is that the poor people are keeping more of their income and the rich people are keeping less of their income. Okay, Zaniu will always pay the most because he earns more than the others. So out of the total tax paid, the 5,000 plus the 12,500 plus the 22,500, the total is 40,000. Min U pays only 12.5%. Sibuya pays just over 31%, and Zaniu pays just over 56%. So he is the richest guy with the highest income is paying by far the most. So Zaniu is not happy. He says, Mintu only works 3 days a week. I work long hours, 6 days a week. That's how I get my extra money. But instead of rewarding my hard work, the government takes most of the extra money away as tax. It's not fair. I might as well stop working so hard. And this is the problem. If people feel like that, they don't work so hard, it's not good for the country. Okay, we look at the second tax, regressive tax. This is just about the reverse of the one we already looked at. So we have the same three people, the same salaries, but we have different tax arrangements in the left-hand column. So this time, tax on earnings up to 50,000 baht are 20%. Then from 50 to 100,000, they go down to 15%, and over 100,000, they go down to 10%. So, Min U, his 50,000, he has to pay 20% on that, so he's going to pay 10,000. Doesn't have earnings over 50,000, so that's all he pays. Sibuya, same for his earnings under 50,000, 10,000. For the 50,000 to 100,000 bracket, he's going to pay 7,500. So he's paying less on that second 50,000 than he did on the first 50,000, where he paid 10,000. And he doesn't earn more than 100,000, so the next one is zero, and his total is 17,500. Zani'u earns the most. For the first two brackets, he pays 10,000 for the lowest bracket, 7,500, the same as Sibuya for the second bracket. For the third one, he is paying only 10% of the amount that he earns over 100,000, so his total is 22,500. So he will always pay the most because he earns more than the others. The total tax paid is 50,000. Min'u pays only 20%, Sibuya pays 35, and Zani'u pays 45. So the bottom end, Min'u is paying more than under the progressive arrangement. Min'u isn't happy because such a big part of his wages is going in tax. 1 baht out of every 5 baht he earns. Zani'u is happier because he gets more reward for his hard work. Now, the third one, proportional tax. This one is fairly simple, and it says everybody gets charged the same amount. Doesn't matter whether it's your first 50,000, your second 50,000, or anything else. You're just going to get charged 15,000 on it. Sorry, 15% on it. So Min'u, he earns his 50,000, he pays 15% on that, that's 7,500. Sibuya earns his 100,000, 15% of that is 15,000, so that's what he pays. Zani'u earns 150,000, so his total is 22,500. So everybody says the same percentage. So out of the total in this one, Min'u is paying 20%, Sibuya 35%, Zani'u 45%. So proportional tax is the fairest system, but it does nothing to fix problems of wealth inequality. So which system is used usually reflects the agenda of the government. Governments voted in by workers tend to favor progressive because they don't like wealth inequality. Governments that want to help business usually want regressive tax because this lets companies keep more of their profits. So at the beginning we said we have two types of tax, direct and indirect. Why have two? Most countries now have both indirect and direct, and some of these were introduced to move away from their old situation where they had only direct. So Britain moved away from that in the 1970s, New Zealand moved away from that in the 1980s. And one of the reasons is that indirect tax taxes a lot of groups who wouldn't be taxed if there was only direct tax. For example, criminals and drug dealers who don't pay direct tax from their wages to the government because the government doesn't have the information, they are taxed when they spend their money. So it makes those guys pay tax when they wouldn't if there was no indirect tax. Also, foreign tourists, they pay direct tax in their own country, but not in the countries they visit. In those countries, they pay indirect tax when they spend their money on holiday. Many people like the idea of indirect tax making sure that criminals pay tax, but it also has unwanted side effects. People that the government doesn't really want to tax have to pay indirect tax. People like students, children, old people, volunteers, people in prison, and anyone else who doesn't earn money, so doesn't pay direct tax. So here we have a rich businessman, and he's saying, it's not fair. Just because I earn a lot of money, I pay 30% tax on my income. You only pay 10%. And I don't use public transport or hospitals. And the poor guy is saying, If I paid 30% of my income, I would have very little left. You can afford it. Also, as you are more successful, you should give more back to the community. So, what kind of tax are they talking about? Progressive or regressive or proportional? And I'm going to give you the answer now, and the answer is progressive. People who earn more pay more, a higher percentage. Okay, the next one. So the poor guy is saying we both pay the same percent of our income as tax. I think that's fair. I pay less tax because I earn less. The rich guy is saying that's not fair at all. I employ a lot of people in my factory, so I contribute a lot to society. I should pay less tax than you. So what kind of tax are they talking about? Progressive or regressive or proportional? And the answer, proportional. Now, this one, you don't actually need to answer this one. But the rich guy is saying, my children go to private schools, not government ones. If I'm sick, I go to private hospital, not ones paid for by the government. I never use public transport because I have a car. I should pay less tax. And the poor guy is saying, rubbish. I work much harder than you, but I earn less money. The rich should help the poor by paying more tax than them. So now I want to talk about the idea of tax efficiency. Economists agree that taxes should be efficient. That means the cost of collecting the tax should be a small percentage of the total amount of tax collected. Imagine a tax where the government collected 10 million baht, but it cost 5 million to collect it. Half the money being collected never gets to build roads and hospitals and so on. Keeping the cost to collect low usually means having simple rules and having a few general taxes, not a lot of different taxes made to fit special situations. To achieve simplicity and keep the price of collecting taxes down, they accept that it will be a little bit unfair in some cases. Not very unfair, but an acceptable amount of unfairness. In the comments in those exercises, in number one and number three, the rich guy tries to argue based on how much he uses the things that tax money is spent on. So he says he doesn't use private hospitals, he doesn't use public transport. Um, Governments never participate in this kind of debate. They simply can't tailor taxes for how much different people use government financed things. It would cost way too much to operate. Imagine that this year you didn't go to hospital, but last year you went to hospital 2 times, so you had to pay higher tax last year because of that. It would be a huge amount of administration if it kept changing like that. And this is the end, my friend. See you next time.